Recently I reviewed the American World War II Thompson M1A1 and the Springfield Armoury M1 carbine, a couple of really nice replica guns. But to make sure I'm not favouring one side or another, time to take a look at the other side, so to speak, because the Germans were more than well armed, and Umarex have got this nicely covered off. Hello and welcome to AAR on Air. Time to take a look at the Mp40. I've covered off this many years ago, but I think a revisit is well worth it. Certainly after looking back at the young pup filming in the dark. So let's pull out a couple of cracking replicas and do them some justice, shall we? Let's start with the Mp40 Legacy. Time for a brief history lesson. The Mp40, Machine Pistol 40 or Maschinenpistole 40, designed in 1938 by Heinrich Vollmer, with inspiration from the Mp38, which was a development and simplification of the Mp36. The main focus on the development of the Mp40 from its predecessors was simplification to aid mass production by using stamped and folded steel rather than machined parts. It was often referred to as the Schmeisser by the Allies after the weapon designer Hugo Schmeisser, but he developed the Mp18 and had nothing to do with the Mp40. He did, however, hold the patent on the box magazine that was used in the Mp40. Fully automatic was the only option and no single shot choice, but the relatively low rate of fire meant, with careful trigger control, it was possible to fire off single rounds. The original had no safety to speak of and relied upon the bolt being locked into one of two cutouts. Forwards locked it into the uncocked position, rearwards locked it into the cocked position. The original weighed 3.97 kilograms or about 8 3/4 pounds. It was 833 millimeters or 32.8 inches with the stock extended, or 630 millimeters or 24.8 inches with the stock folded. And of course, it was still fully functional with the skeleton stock folded away. There was an issue with the stock not being sufficiently strong to take too much heavy abuse though. It was 9mm and used 9x19mm parabellum rounds. Being pretty much pistol ammunition fed, it had a maximum range of about 250 metres, with effective firing ranges of between 100 and 200 metres, depending on which of the rear sight settings you were using. The box magazine was a 32 round item, but was susceptible to jamming and misfiring, because the double column dual feed system was prone to dust and debris affecting the action. Holding the magazine in use could also misalign the rounds, so operators were taught to hold the magazine housing or the Bakelite stock behind the magazine to avoid the issue. Holding the barrel wasn't a good idea because it would get hot in use and result in burns. There were about 1.1 million made in the various variants, and in spite of being produced between 1940 and 1945, it was still being found for many years in the theatres of war all around the world. It was even being used by the Norwegian territorials up to 1990. The majority of the German forces were issued with the K98 rifles, but the Mp40 found its way into close quarter situations increasingly, and in some cases was issued to entire assault platoons. It is a real classic. Let's take a walk around then of this Umarex MP German Legacy version. There is, of course, the standard version, which doesn't have that weathered or battlefield look to it. Sizes first. This weighs in at a little over 3.5 kilograms or 7.7 pounds and has the open length of 830 millimeters or just over 32.5 inches and closed stock length of 620 millimeters or just under 24.5 inches. These dimensions are so close to the original. It is folded metal as per the original and has that Baker-like body. The front sight is a closed loop post type system and is fixed. Moving back, we have the barrel with its odd shaped piece on the underside, which was added to be able to rest the gun when shooting from vehicles such as half-tracks without damaging the gun or the barrel. Then we come to the hook for fitting a strap, which mates up with its counterpart at the back end of the gun, which helped in the carrying of it and also gave stability when shooting from the hip, I suppose. Then we come to the main body and that stick magazine, which holds the BBs and the CO2s, but we'll look at that a little later. Moving further back still is the big mag release button. Then we come back to the main body, which has a Bakelite style material, just like the original. Above this is the bolt with markings for those positions of safety on the original. Sadly, this isn't operational and has a separate safety on the underside, which is a big and functional and stiff enough. When I say stiff enough, I mean it takes a little force and is not likely to be able to be operated by little hands and fingers, which means this is safer in the family environment. Just in front of this is the big circular knob that would unscrew and allow it to be stripped in the field. Sadly, this is non-functional on this particular one. Along the top are those rear sights, which have that two-position flip-up sight for those 100 and 200 meter ranges. We then have that skeleton stock, which swings into action by depressing the rather large button on the rear. It swings all the way back and then allows the butt piece to open up to give it its full length. The grip on the underside is a pistol grip. The trigger is single action and has a pull weight of around 4.5 pounds. Unlike the original, this, the UK version, is semi-automatic single shot only. So it's down to some fast trigger work. It is blowback and has a great feel to it, again adding to the overall experience. Let's take a look at that magazine now, shall we? It takes two 12-gram CO2s, which are loaded face first on the first one, and then bottom first on the second. Then return the screw, tighten it up using the supplied hex key. It takes a bit of work. As usual, you can simply pop in one full one and one empty one if you're not going to be doing a lot of shooting. But why you wouldn't fill her up to the 50 BB capacity and just keep blasting away until your finger aches, I can't understand. Yes, I said 50 rounds, which are loaded in the usual way. By pulling back on the spring, getting your BBs and carefully topping it up until you've got all 50 in, release the spring, pop it back into the gun, and you're ready for the fun to start. I've often wondered why pellets are sold in tins of 500s and BBs sold in pots of 1500. Well, it's because of tools like this. You're going to need loads. Let's check on the power levels now, shall we? This was shot with the Umarex 5.37 grain steel BBs and saw a maximum of 498 feet per second, which equates to just under 3 foot-pounds or 4.1 joules. No surprise, it isn't a rat rearranger, it's a plinker and a collector's gun. And in this battle-type finish, it looks like it was picked up off the front line in Bastogne or something of the like. If you prefer your guns to look new, then there is the basic black version, which looks terrific in all its newness, if there is such a word. Can you hit anything with it? Let's take a look, shall we? Out at around 10 to 15 metres, shooting freehand. Here goes. Good enough, but what about that plinking target work?
They're rattling, but they're not doing.
That's better, and that's what this is all about. And great fun too. No German helmet for this video, I'm afraid, but that doesn't mean I won't get one in the future. Price-wise, I think the basic black costs around £295 in the UK, and the Legacy version in its battle-worn attire comes in at around £325 UK. They currently have both in at Vector Air, who kindly loaned these to me to do the review. I know these have been out a while, but I couldn't resist a revisit, and whether they are new or not, they are pretty timeless, with a very big place in history. You know, I was always a straightforward rifle airgunner for many years, but when you eventually give in and try some of these historic replicas, you appreciate the history behind them and really enjoy owning and using these things. They are so well made. I know I've said it before, but the R&D guys at Umarex do a pretty good job when it comes to the Legacy range. Again, I've enjoyed this week. I feel I'm in quite a privileged position sometimes to get involved with these guns, and I must thank the guys at Vector Air for their help in supplying these for me to review. I will be sneaking some more out as soon as I can. If you've enjoyed this, as always, please give us the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done. Give the old alarm bell a prod. Have a look at all of this lot when you have a minute. Check out the guys at Vector Air. They're growing all the time. Oh, and AAR on air. There's loads happening there too. That's it. I'm off. I'll be back next Friday as always. Hope to see you then. Until then, stay safe and shoot safe. Thank you so much for watching.